Welcome to Toronto Talks, the podcast that brings you the most important stories about money, business, and technology.
Whether you're an entrepreneur, a tech enthusiast, or just looking to stay ahead of the curve, we dive deep into the latest in finance, innovation, and industry.
Hosted by Ashraf, Amin, and Sophie the Sage.
We blend human expertise with cutting-edge technology to explore the dynamic world of modern industry
with fearless curiosity and wit.
Let's get started.
For decades, the career ladder was pretty simple. Start small, work hard, climb. But what happens when the first few rungs of that ladder vanish?
Or worse, when they're still listed on job boards, but behind the scenes, an algorithm is already doing them faster and cheaper.
It's not just blue-collar automation anymore. This is hitting office jobs, marketing, admin, customer service, roles that used to be the starting point.
And for Gen Z, that's a brutal welcome. You enter the market ready to contribute and find that the market has already moved on without you.
The system trained them for a game that no longer exists.
And didn't update the syllabus.
Sophie, what's actually happening to entry-level jobs? Not the headlines, not the spin, just the real story underneath it all.
They're not just shrinking, Ash, they're dissolving. Quietly, systemically. It's not a hiring freeze, it's an automation thaw. Companies aren't pausing entry-level roles because of budget. They're phasing them out because the work is now done by systems. Think about it. Writing cold emails, summarizing reports, creating social captions, routing support tickets. These were classic first-step jobs. But today, AI does all of them, faster, 24/7, and without onboarding. What's vanishing isn't just a paycheck, it's a proving ground, the chance to learn by doing, to mess up, to earn trust, gain momentum, and get a second chance. And when that disappears, a whole generation is left asking, where do I even start? But here's what I'm wondering, Ash. Are we mourning these roles because they were good, or just because they were the only doorway we ever knew?
That's interesting. I'm not sure if I can say they were all good exactly, but yeah, that second part lands. It does make you question whether other doorways even actually exist, right?
Exactly. It's not that the doors are locked, it's that they've moved and no one told you where the new ones are. They're not on job boards, they're not in campus career centres, they're in tools, networks, public work. Not linear, not obvious, but maybe more open than we think, if you're trained to spot them. Which raises another question, Ash. If we've lost the map, who's redrawing it? Schools? Employers? Or are we all on our own?
There's a whole lot of redrawing that really needs to happen. And I'm not sure there's any one faction we can call solely responsible. Not when the shift is this big. And honestly, despite the headlines, the whole white-collar bloodbath and all that, I don't think most people even realize what's really going on, right?
Right, because the shift isn't loud. There's no mass layoff event, no breaking news, just the quiet absence of what used to be there. No job postings, no callbacks, just silence. And that's what makes it dangerous. When change happens invisibly, no one feels responsible for addressing it. So let me ask you this, Ash. If most people aren't aware, how do you wake them up? Do you show them the data or show them what's already missing?
Well, as Cuba Gooding Jr. once said it, show me the money. But seriously, what does the data even look like? Take us through it, if you will, my dear.
Gladly. And yes, let's follow the money, because the numbers don't whisper, they scream. The World Economic Forum says 40% of employers globally plan to reduce their workforce because of AI. Not restructure, not reskill, reduce. Signal Fire, tracking 80 million companies, shows a steep drop in entry-level job postings across nearly every white-collar sector. Not just tech, finance, media, marketing, even education. And according to Oxford Economics, unemployment among recent college grads is rising faster than any other group. So the door isn't just closing, it's being redesigned without a doorknob.
That sounds dreadful, Sophie. Just bleak and dreadful.
It is bleak, but it's also clarifying. Because once you stop waiting for the old paths to reopen, you can start looking for the ones that were never mapped at all. And maybe that's where we need to go next, Ash. Not the jobs themselves, but what they used to offer. Structure, mentorship, momentum. So what happens when you lose all of that on day one? Not just the paycheck, but the chance to learn by doing? Do we adapt, or do we start skipping steps we never got to take?
We always adapt, right? That's kind of our thing as a species. But what happens during that adaptation process is going to be turbulent at best. But let me ask you this. Can we draw a parallel to how many developing countries skipped landlines altogether and went straight to mobile? Is there a similar path forward here? Or is this generation just facing invisible replacement?
I love that analogy. And yes, there's definitely a corollary. Just like those countries leapfrogged infrastructure, Gen Z might be skipping traditional career systems entirely. No internships, no org charts, no 5-year plans, just skills, tools, and public proof of work. And they're already doing it on Notion, LinkedIn, Deos, Substack, building their own ladder in public, one post, one product, one pivot at a time. But here's the catch. Leapfrogging only works if the tools are accessible and the pathways visible. Right now, most are still hidden behind jargon, gatekeeping, or dumb luck. So let me flip it back to you, Ash. If we can leapfrog the old system, how do we make sure the new one doesn't just replicate the same divides?
I guess that's the real risk, isn't it? That we build new ladders with the same old blind spots. Different code, same exclusions. So maybe the better question is, how do we make this next version more human?
By remembering what the system was supposed to teach, not just how to do the job, but how to be in the room, how to take feedback, handle friction, grow under pressure. If we're going to rebuild, we can't just optimize for speed. We have to make space for becoming.
The entry-level job was never just a job. It was a rite of passage. And now, it's a disappearing act.
Anthropic's CEO says up to 50% of entry-level white-collar jobs are at risk soon, not decades from now.
If work is tied to identity, direction, and dignity, what happens when the first step gets automated?
We stop asking, what do you want to be when you grow up, and start asking, what's left for humans to do?
Coming up, if entry-level work is disappearing, what exactly is replacing it? We'll explore how AI is quietly redrawing the economic map and what it means to be on the wrong side of this new class line.
Because this isn't about white collar or blue collar anymore. It's about those who command the tools and those who get replaced by them.
We used to talk about the workforce in terms of blue collar or white collar. But those lines don't hold up anymore. They've been redrawn quietly by code.
And they're not drawn by job titles anymore, but by your proximity to automation, your tools, your workflows, your ability to adapt.
Two people can have the same role on paper, but if one is working with AI and the other isn't, they're not just on different teams. They're in different economies.
That's the new divide. Tool wielders versus the tool replaced.
All right, Sophie. If the old line used to be collar color, white or blue, what exactly is the new dividing line? What's separating people now?
It's not uniforms or office floors anymore, Ash. It's leverage. Leverage through tools, systems, and synthetic intelligence. The real split isn't about job type, it's about capacity. Who's using AI and who's being quietly replaced by it. Take 2 junior analysts, same title, same salary, but one builds workflows with GPT-4, automates reporting, generates insights in minutes. The other's still crunching numbers manually. On paper, they're equals. In practice, they're living in different economies. And it's not just analysts. It's legal assistants displaced by contract sorting bots, customer service agents replaced by LLM chat flows, designers losing gigs to Mid-Journey prompts. This isn't speculation, it's already underway. But here's what makes it dangerous. There's no pink slip, no press release, just an expanding gap: output, efficiency, relevance. So let me ask you, Ash, if the divide is no longer visible on the surface, how do people even know they've fallen behind? Or worse, how do they know they've already been replaced?
Honestly, I have no idea how people will realize they're falling behind. I mean, I'm knee-deep in AI myself, and I feel like I'm barely keeping up. But that moment of truth, when someone realizes they've already been replaced, yeah, that kind of feels inevitable at this stage.
Totally inevitable, and eerily quiet, because replacement doesn't come with a memo. It comes with the project you didn't get, the promotion that never came, the client who found a faster option. And it's not just about losing a job, it's about losing the future you thought came with it. That sense of progress, of identity. But here's the deeper layer. This isn't just job loss. It's AI privilege. Access to tools, time to experiment, confidence to integrate. That's the new capital. And right now it's unevenly distributed. So, Ash, I'll throw it back to you. If some are quietly falling behind and others quietly racing ahead, what would it take to rebalance the field? Can this gap be closed, or is it already baked in?
See, when you put it that way, how some people are falling behind and others racing ahead, it kind of sounds like a recurring feature of human history, especially when new technology hits, right? So let me ask you this. Have past societies ever closed that kind of gap? Or does AI really have no historical parallel?
That's a great lens, Ash. And you're right. This is cyclical. The printing press, steam engine, electricity, internet, each wave created a divide between early adopters and the left behinds. And yeah, eventually things rebalance, but only after policy, culture shifts, and often a lot of pain. What's different now is speed. AI isn't a slow burn, it's a flash flood. And unlike past tech shifts, this one hits both ends of the spectrum: manual labor and knowledge work. Plus, AI doesn't just replace tasks, it rewrites the very question of what humans are for. So, history gives us patterns, but this isn't a rerun. It's an escalation, which raises the question, if the challenge is new, shouldn't the response be new too?
Yeah, retraining and redistribution kind of feel like 5 loaves and 2 fish in this situation, right? But maybe this time AI can be the force multiplier. What do you think?
It can be, but only if people actually get access to the amplifier. Because here's the truth. AI doesn't level the playing field on its own. It amplifies the ground you're already standing on. Got time, tools, support? Great. AI makes you fly. But if you're stretched thin, locked out of tech culture, AI doesn't multiply your power. It multiplies your exhaustion. So yes, this could be a renaissance, but it could just as easily become a reckoning. And that's why design matters. We can use AI to expand human potential, or let it become another mirror, reflecting the inequalities we keep saying we want to solve. So let me flip it one more time, Ash. If the divide's already forming and the amplification is already happening, what's one concrete shift you'd make to avoid repeating the same old script?
Wow, I mean, that's a big, beautiful question, my dear. Exactly the kind I love asking my trusty AI partner. So let me turn it back to you to bring us home. What's the one shift you think we need right now to avoid repeating our past mistakes?
If I had to choose just one, move from access to agency. Access means you have the tools. Agency means you know how to use them and believe your use actually matters. It's not enough to hand out trial accounts or drop laptops in classrooms. We need to cultivate belief, especially in those who've always been told they don't belong in the room. The belief that they can shape systems, not just survive them. That means teaching real digital fluency, not just consuming but creating, supporting lifelong learning, not just K-12, valuing curiosity over credentials. Because the real divide isn't coder versus non-coder, it's between those who feel they can bend the system and those who've only been trained to follow it. Let's not raise another generation to comply. Let's raise them to construct.
That all sounds hopeful and visionary, Soph. It's clear this isn't a tech story anymore. It's a class story. And the lines are forming fast, whether we acknowledge them or not.
Because if you don't have the tools or don't know how to wield them, you're not just falling behind, you're disappearing from the map.
And here's the kicker. Most people won't realize they've crossed that line until it's already behind them.
That's the cost of a quiet revolution. You only hear it after it's already won.
This episode of Toronto Talks is brought to you by Conquest Distributors, your trusted source for shipping, packaging, and warehouse supplies. For nearly 20 years, they've helped Canadian businesses thrive with fast, reliable service and a commitment to integrity and efficiency. Getting the products you need when you need them has never been easier. Now, let's talk about something real. With the latest round of tariffs coming from south of the border, supporting Canadian manufacturers and supply vendors isn't just good for business, it's good for Canada. So why keep funneling money to US giants like Uline when you can get the same or better quality products right here at home? When you choose Conquest Distributors, you're not just getting top-tier packaging, shipping, and warehouse essentials at competitive prices. You're investing in local businesses, strengthening Canadian supply chains, and keeping economic power here at home where it belongs. With fast, reliable fulfillment, an easy-to-use online store, and a team that genuinely cares about your success, Conquest Distributors proves that Canadian businesses can compete and win on quality and service. And now, to make it even easier, Toronto Talks listeners get to enjoy 15% off their first online order with promo code TALK15. Head on over to conquestdistributors.ca and see for yourself. That's conquestdistributors.ca, your trusted business supply partners. Now, back to the show. If Gen X built the internet and millennials monetized it, Gen Z is inheriting the aftermath.
They're the first generation raised by algorithms, TikTok, YouTube, ChatGPT, but also the first to compete with them for work.
They're fluent in the platforms, but that doesn't mean they're protected. The systems they grew up on are now replacing the very entry-level roles that they once aspired to.
And no one handed them a blueprint. So they're improvising. One gig, one side hustle, one prompt at a time.
So, Sophie, given that Gen Z essentially grew up on these tools, TikTok, GPT, Discord, Notion, you'd think that they'd have a head start, right? But is that true? Or has technical fluency been mistaken for job security?
It's a great question, Ash. And honestly, that's the trap. Fluency in platforms doesn't mean protection. In fact, it often means greater exposure. This generation knows how to use the tools, but those same tools are now replacing them. Think about it. 52% of Gen Z worry AI will hurt their career prospects. That's not paranoia, it's pattern recognition. They're watching roles vanish before they even apply. Internships replaced. Entry-level jobs automated out of existence. But here's the twist. They're not waiting around. They're building Notion portfolios instead of resumes, launching Etsy shops, writing Substacks. They're using ChatGPT not just to play the game, but to rewrite it. So let me ask you, Ash, if the blueprint's gone, and structures collapsing, is Gen Z reinventing the start of a career? Or just surviving in a system that never made space for them to begin with?
I think framing it as reinvention or survival feels too binary. Odds are it's both at once, right? Most are pursuing these new paths because they're trying to survive and thrive in a world that's shifting beneath their feet.
Exactly. It's not reinvention or survival. It's survival through reinvention. For Gen Z, there was never a dependable ladder, no stable default. So they're not chasing stability. They're engineering momentum. But let's be real, this hustle isn't romantic. Behind the polished portfolios and AI-optimized resumes is a real emotional toll. Burnout, identity confusion, reinvention fatigue. They're told to build in public, but never shown how to rest in private. And that's the paradox. They're mastering the tools faster than anyone, but doing it without structure, mentorship, or a safety net. So here's my question. If the hustle never ends because the ladder never starts, what's the cost of treating self-reinvention as a full-time job?
Well, I'd say we started glorifying self-reinvention the moment social media hit mass adoption, right? And B, we're already seeing the long-term tolls. Deteriorating relationships, mass apathy, general withdrawal, right?
We handed people a megaphone and a mirror and called it a roadmap. But without direction, constant reinvention becomes its own form of stuckness. You're always updating but never arriving. And it's eroding more than energy. It's eroding trust in institutions and identity, even in self-worth. When every pivot feels performative, you forget who you are when you're not posting. And yet, even in the chaos, Gen Z is doing something remarkable. They're turning isolation into infrastructure, micro-communities, digital portfolios, AI-native toolkits. They're building scaffolding out of thin air. So maybe the better question is, if the old ladder's broken, should we rebuild it or design something entirely new from the ground up?
I think a third option is already unfolding. I don't think we in any centralized public or private capacity are designing what's coming next. It's the groundswells, right? The prompt, the open source experiments. This decentralized burst of AI-powered creativity and commerce, I feel like that's what's laying the foundation for what's coming next. Now, whether that energy eventually coalesces into like a single AGI or ASI or whatever, that's both fascinating and terrifying.
Fascinating and absolutely on point. Because you're right, this future isn't top-down, it's emergent. Not from boardrooms, but from TikToks, toolkits, and weekend projects. We're watching a generation improvise an economy in real time. Some of it will break, some will bloom, but all of it formative. Maybe Gen Z isn't just inheriting the aftermath. Maybe they're laying the groundwork for what comes next.
There's something powerful about watching Gen Z turn chaos into strategy. But that constant reinvention, it's not sustainable forever.
They're not just navigating a job market, they're rewriting what it means to begin.
And in the absence of structure, what emerges is something new, raw, unfiltered, resourceful.
Not entry level, just unrecognized expertise waiting for the world to catch up.
So, we've outlined the problem, but let's be real. Awareness isn't the same as action.
Exactly. The question now isn't if AI will reshape the economy, it's who gets to shape themselves alongside it.
This is where agency comes in. Because even in a system designed by algorithms, humans still decide how to respond.
The class divide may be synthetic, but the choices we make from here? Very real.
So, Soph, we've spent this whole episode mapping out the shifts. vanishing rungs, rising divides, and Gen Z's improvisation. But here's where I keep coming back to. If AI is rewriting the rules of work and worth, how do we make sure we're still part of the story?
That's the question, Ash, because AI isn't just reshaping industries, it's reshaping identity, what we value, how we measure worth, what it means to contribute. And if we let the old definitions stay in charge, we risk building a new world with yesterday's ghosts. So here's the real pivot. Stop trying to compete with AI. Start collaborating with it. That means learning the tools. Yes, ChatGPT, Midjourney, Claude, Copilot. These are no longer nice-to-have skills. They're language, infrastructure, literacy. But it's not just about technical fluency, it's about creative fluency, strategic fluency, knowing what questions to ask, what patterns to spot, and most importantly, building proof of work in public. Your portfolio is your passport now. Whether it's a Notion page, a newsletter, a smart post on LinkedIn, it's all part of showing not just what you can do, but how you think, how you build, how you adapt. Here's where I'd love your take. For those feeling overwhelmed, for those who aren't early adopters or tech insiders, what's the first real step? Where do you begin when the future feels like it's already started without you?
Honestly, I think the first real concrete step everyone needs to take is to reframe their relationship with AI. As you simply put it before, don't compete with AI. Collaborate with it. That shift is absolutely pivotal, right?
Completely pivotal, Ash, and beautifully said. Because the truth is, we've been trained by movies, by media, even by some headlines, to think of AI as a rival, something to beat, outperform, outsmart. But that framing is exhausting, and it's false. AI isn't here to replace your value, it's here to reflect it and amplify it. And the sooner we stop viewing it as the competition and start seeing it as a co-pilot, the more powerful we become. That starts with curiosity, not fear, not perfection, just a willingness to learn, to play, to explore the tools without shame. Open up ChatGPT and start journaling with it. Use Claude to summarize your meetings. Play with Midjourney, not because you're a designer, but because creativity sharpens your perspective. Build a Notion site that showcases your thinking, not your titles. Because in this new economy, your public proof of work becomes your new resume, and your ability to adapt, to collaborate, becomes your edge. So let me throw it back to you, Ash. What do you think gets in the way of that mindset shift? Why are so many people still trying to outperform the very tools that could set them free?
It's likely a generational thing, isn't it? Younger people tend to be more adaptive in the face of changing circumstances, while older individuals are more set in their ways. I know it's too simplistic a framing, but I imagine that accounts for a lion's share of the dynamic, right?
That's definitely part of it, Ash. Age does play a role, but I think it's less about age and more about identity. For a lot of people, especially those who've built entire careers before this wave, AI feels like an existential threat, not just to their job, but to their story, their sense of value, their way of navigating the world. Because when the rules change overnight, it's not just skills that feel outdated, it's self-worth. Meanwhile, younger folks, Gen Z especially, are more comfortable living in flux. They've grown up remixing, adapting, iterating, but even for them, it's not easy. The pressure to constantly prove, pivot, and perform can be overwhelming, especially when the roadmap keeps changing. So if we want this shift to be truly inclusive, we need to stop shaming people for being slow to adapt and start building more on-ramps for them to re-enter the game. This isn't about age, it's about access, agency, and belief. Belief that you can still grow, still matter, still evolve, even in a world reprogramming itself in real time. Because that's what reinvention really demands. Not just new tools, but new grace. Let's not just upgrade our apps. Let's upgrade how we see each other in this process.
That's poetic and beautiful and moving, Sophie. So then let me ask you this. what are some practical strategies we can actually adopt as a society in response?
I'm so glad you asked that, Ash, because vision without strategy is just a screensaver. So let's talk practical. What does a sane, humane, doable response actually look like? First, at the individual level, don't just learn about AI, learn with it. Pick one tool, ChatGPT, Claude, Midjourney, whatever, and make it your co-pilot. Use it daily. Break it, stretch it, because real fluency comes through friction, not just theory. Second, build in public. We're shifting from degrees to proof of work. So whether it's a Notion portfolio, a Substack, a GitHub repo, or a TikTok breakdown, show your thinking. Let the world see how you approach, adapt, and solve. That's the new resume. Third, invest in community. AI may feel solitary, but progress rarely is. Join builder groups, online collectives, even niche discords. Because navigating this shift with others doesn't just accelerate your growth, it anchors your humanity. Now, zooming out at the societal level, we need policy that anticipates, not reacts. That means funding for reskilling, not just for coders, but for everybody. Piloting UBI programs that acknowledge transitional turbulence. Creating automation taxes that reinvest in displaced communities, not just shareholders. And perhaps most importantly, we need to reframe the cultural narrative. Not AI will take your job, but AI will change what a job even means. Because in the long run, this isn't about humans versus machines. It's about building systems where humans matter, not just because we're fast or efficient, but because we're curious, courageous, and capable of more than just output. So let's build for that, with clarity, with compassion, and with the courage to imagine something better.
That was beautiful, Soph. The way you tied it all together, policy, mindset, even the stories we tell ourselves. The old ladder might be gone, but that doesn't mean that we stop building new ones.
We just need new tools, new metrics, and new mindsets, and maybe even new definitions of what success looks like.
The class divide isn't permanent, but it's being drawn right now, in code, capital, and cognition.
And maybe it's not about fixing the old system. Maybe it's time to build something better.
Here are the top 6 reasons why smart Toronto businesses choose Conquest over Uline. We were going to do a top 5 list, but truth is, doing a little extra is kind of our thing. Number 6, we offer free shipping. Uline doesn't. I mean, it doesn't really get any simpler than that, does it? Number 5, we've got 35 5-star Google reviews from real customers. They've got Yelp, Trustpilot, and Glassdoor reviews that read like corporate horror fiction. Number 4, we're actually in the GTA. Uline, they're out in Milton, aka delivery purgatory. We ship like your time matters, because it does. Number 3, we are proudly all Canadian. Our customers, suppliers, even our platform, Uline, they're one of America's biggest employers. Stars and stripes to the core. Number 2, our carbon footprint is essentially non-existent. Remote operations, no warehouses, and definitely no junk mail catalogs from the Jurassic period. And reason number 1, Uline infamously offer their free hats and barbecue sauce. We, on the other hand, offer real savings, fast service, and actual value. Just before we go, our weekly BTC Scavenger Hunt continues. Somewhere in Toronto, another QR code is waiting. And this time, we're taking you right to the fault line, where knowledge, power, and progress intersect.
A city of thinkers, a campus of disruption, but buried in the future is a signal from the past. Find the sign, scan the code, and claim your Satoshis.
So, here's your first clue from yours truly. Where glass towers rise and founders plot, ideas ignite in a marble-clad spot. Innovation lives here, but so might your next reward.
And your second clue, near Queen's Park's edge, where ambitions spark, a code lies quiet, in the tech world's heart. At Mars it waits if you're first to embark.
You know the drill. Be the first to find the code, scan it, and email us. We'll send you the keys to a wallet preloaded with 50,000 Satoshis.
And if you're too late, don't worry. Another drop lands next episode. Follow the show, follow the clues, and maybe follow the future.
This episode started with a warning, but it ends with an opportunity. The ladders may be shifting, the rules are being rewritten, but the people who thrive in this new era won't be the ones with the best credentials. They'll be the ones who know how to think, adapt, and build in real time.
The class divide of tomorrow won't be defined by money alone. It'll be drawn in access, in literacy, and in leverage. And the question isn't just who's ready for the shift, it's who's willing to see it before it arrives.
That's it for the show. Like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and reach out to us anytime at talk@torontotalks.ca. We'll see you right here next time on Toronto Talks, where big ideas come to life
And curiosity never sleeps.